Good afternoon, Bob Georgiou, RE/MAX Concord here, coming to you with another rolling real estate report for Concord, February 2025, and a local real estate market report. Roll the intro. Today is January 15th, and today we have seen a big wave of inventory hit Concord in the Concord market. This has to do with not anything other than the time of year, although it is a little bit early, and to say that some of the Concord homeowners are getting a start on the market is a little bit of an understatement. Typically, we don't see this activity till early February or mid-February, but right now Concord seems to be leading other areas of central Contra Costa County in the inventory situation. Pleasant Hill is certainly super tight. Walnut Creek is dragging up the markers with a little bit of activity here and there, but by and large, Concord has seen the biggest wave of inventory in what is going to be a real interesting year. This year, the rent control in Concord takes effect in spite of litigation that may or may not be going on. Investors have seen the letters go out to register their properties with the town, with the city of Concord, and do their rent rollbacks to 2023. Looks like that the stabilization board is moving forward, and this may or may not have a bearing on people who own single families. If you do happen to have a rental that's a condo, you're certainly not making huge cash flow unless the condo happens to be paid off on these properties, and the $200 a year and the rent rollback is certainly going to affect you financially. So it's a good time to be selling a condo if you have the equity right now and moving into other areas like Sacramento market. It's a good time to be buying in now as the San Francisco Bay Sacramento Metroplex begins to develop. There's a lot of talk about this whole I-80 corridor becoming a single market, and with homes in Sacramento area still being $350,000 at the entry level, going up to a mid-market below $1 million. There's still room to move up there in the Sacramento area proper. This is obviously a macro trend. We know that the investors in the Fairfield area are trying to build that super city around Travis Air Force Base. They're moving into headwinds there, but that is to be expected for a major project like that that's going to have a big impact on traffic in that corridor. But we're seeing now the early talk that that this whole area is going to be a metroplex like the Los Angeles area was probably in the 70s or so, maybe sooner. And again, the Sacramento doesn't have rent control the way the Sacramento cities around Sacramento don't have rent control, and it's a good time to be taking your equity out of the Bay Area and moving into there as being one of the early adapters in that macro trend. In real estate news, you know that the Los Angeles fires have been a big factor in the Southern California market. It won't affect us much up here other than to say that there may be a secondary effect of LA buyers who are considering leaving the higher dollar market for greener, drier pastures, which would include Northern Californian places, which means that the upper end of the market may see a little bit of a stimulus on the fringes. Since our market is already so tight out here in the East Bay, we're probably not going to see immediate effects of it, but secondary effects might mean that as some of those Southern California owners become Northern California owners, as the current Northern California owners sell their houses to these folks, we may end up seeing some of that inventory trickle in our direction down the road, as the trend has been over the last few years with urban dwellers moving into central Contra Costa in place of their San Francisco and Oakland locations. California buyers, the California fires are creating a boom in the high-end LA market. It seems that if you own a multi-million-dollar property in the Pacific Palisades or Malibu area, you either have second homes or are looking to buy an additional home while your current house is not even ready to be cleaned up, let alone drawing up plans for the new property. And commonly California, this is a 3 to 5 year process before those homes will be completed. 3 years typically the permitting process in these sort of disaster areas, a year for cleanup, and then a year for construction, maybe 2 years for construction. So we're not going to see big changes in Los Angeles, even though the governor's tried to do what he can in order to mitigate some of the bureaucracy that's involved. There will be it'll be several years before the cleanup in that area and homes and the rebuilding of that area really takes hold. There is talk about rezoning some of the areas of Pacific Palisades for higher densities, which is overall probably a good thing. They're probably not going to like the fact that people are talking about putting condos and townhouses in what is ultimately a truly suburban single-family area, but that is the trend in California, and has been the trend in California for several years now, trying to put in high density where you can. And these fires have created opportunities in these high dollar areas to put in more density. If you take a look at what's going on in downtown Danville, we've seen 5 or 6 high density complexes go up right in the center of town. They're nice. They're still selling at $1 million to $2 million for a condominium, which is kind of amazing, but that's the real estate prices in Danville. And I imagine Pacific Palisades will benefit from having that sort of inventory locally, as the owners that are aging out in that area would certainly appreciate having a condo in their townhouse, in their area, where they can sell their $3, $4, $5 million house and move into a $1 or $2 million condo. It's kind of a misnomer to say that these condos and townhouses are going to be low income. They're not. It's just going to increase density. But with the housing shortage in the whole state of California, not just in specific areas like the Bay Area here, Central Contra Costa County, San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, but parts of the higher dollar parts of Los Angeles are included in that. And Pacific Palisades and Malibu were areas that certainly fall under that category. You're seeing a lot of voices being raised that they don't want this sort of thing in, but nobody in California wants this thing sort of coming in. But when it all gets built, it usually ends up being fairly nice inventory, and I don't happen to be one of those folks that is all up in arms about this thing, provided that it's planned right. And a lot of the local communities do have a big say in these high density projects, and they turn out being real nice. What I'll do in the next Danville report is drive around Danville, and I'll show you some of the higher dollar condominiums and townhouses, and maybe do the same thing in Walnut Creek in a couple weeks. And the people who move into these things are folks from the area, from Danville, moving down into from their multi-million dollar house down to $1 million townhouse, or moving up from a place that is appreciated to $1 million, and it becomes a sideways move for them. And with the more recent propositions, Prop 19, Prop 13, they can take their tax base off their old properties and basically buy into a turnkey, making available the older inventory available for people who were basically them when they bought the property, young families, kids, and all that stuff. It's kind of the circle of life with real estate, and it's ultimately a good thing. I don't, the naysayers, the NIMBYs, they're wrong on this. Go to the end of the video and I'll complete the thought on this, because I just had something flash in my mind. So I'm going to put the rest of this after the intro, just to stay on point about the local news. But tune into that if you want to hear some my opinions about the Concord Naval Weapons Station area in Concord, because we're on the Concord Report. Overall, the market has been very strong, but we have seen a headline recently that Zillow is predicting that the Bay Area is going to be one of the real estate laggards. I imagine that has to do with the inventory situation more than it has to do with anything else. Job situation is certainly a concern, in that the tech market is the one that where we're seeing a lot of shuffle out of state to lower cost areas, Texas, the Carolinas. And that's reflected in their real estate markets to one degree or another, as well as their changing demographics. By and large, the Bay Area market is going to be very strong relative to prior years. We may see some loosening of inventory, especially in the condo segment, with the economic pressures and people looking to get out of the condo market locally into the single family market, which will in turn bolster an already strong seller's market on low inventory. This weekend, you're not really seeing this information in the Concord numbers. We're still seeing holiday low inventory and low buyer activity reflected in these numbers. Sales are in the 800s, which seems to be where the heart of the Concord market resides. This is sort of the low end of the market. You still see $600,000, $700,000 homes here and there. Certainly not the cookie cutter suburban homes that most people are looking for. But for that cookie cutter house, for the nice turnkey homes in the Concord suburbia, that's solidly in the 800 and up into the low million range for the bulk of the center of the market. Inventory up until this week was in decline. Literally today, before I did this video, I jumped on. It's Thursday when I do my property searches for my clients. We did see a big wave of inventory this week, today necessarily, for this weekend's open house. So I do expect the next report next month in Concord to reflect more normal numbers over a broader spectrum of the entire market, not working over with the holiday low inventory. But the fact remains that the data in this week's report shows that the numbers are in decline. Early buyer activity this year has made an already tight inventory situation that much tighter, with a lot of houses that were on the market over the holidays currently going into escrow. And along with that whole holiday sentiment, you have seen the days on market on the increase, reflecting the buyers took off over the holidays in the middle of November and are coming back into the market in the middle of January. This is probably a peak. I definitely expect that number to go down, especially with an inventory wave this week. Homes are still coming on hot. Up till this prior week, 30% of the inventory had to reduce in order to find the buyers. And it is important to remember that because low inventory has a tendency to exaggerate defects in the market more than having a broad swath of inventory to sample from. Condo market is all over the place on reduced inventory. We did see a lot of the inventory either withdraw from the market or sell off into the challenges that we started to see late last year with insurance challenges, spiking interest rates, and the year-end homeowners dues on the increase. All these financial pressures obviously are going to have downward price pressure on the condo market. But given that the sentiment for the year is optimistic, I do expect some of that condo inventory to sell off a little quicker than it did toward the end of last year. Even though the buyers in the last 2 quarters of last year were dealing with all these changes as they were happening, the challenges in that market are now, I wouldn't say priced in, but are actually, the information is matriculated into the market so that buyers are going into these transactions with eyes open. And with increased inventory, we can expect to see lower prices and multiple offers as the better inventory attracts the most solid buyers, while the lagging inventory obviously is deficient and will sit there and create a broader spectrum across price points. That way is a whole really hard way of saying that the market's going to be a little bit more stable going into the strong buying season of this year. Active low-priced inventory. I haven't seen a lot of the inventory in the 300s in a very long time, so that's the entry level of the market, and that is pushing the median price of the condo segment in a downward direction. This does not reflect the market as a whole. This just happens to be that the influences that I just listed off of the condo market have gotten to a point where less risk-averse buyers are willing to jump into the market and get themselves a permanent roof over the head, as opposed to renting and getting a foothold in this market and starting to build equity. It's certainly easier to pay down a $300,000 loan than it is to pay down a $700,000 loan, where the median in the single-family home market is. And so the value buyers are out picking up the condos and managing the cash flows by getting value on the properties that they're purchasing. Overall, the trend is stable in spite of the holiday and all these fluctuations in the condo market and influences that affected the market last year. We are seeing, signs of stabilization, and again, as we know, the market picks up in the second quarter. As that happens in here, we can expect to see, pretty much prices remaining where they are, at least into the mid-year holiday season in July and August. At that point, we'll begin to see another reshuffling based on the economic conditions at then, and based on the early analysis, we could be in a fairly stable condo market for 2025 and avoid some of the worst damages, possibly some of the worst damage is from outside influences looking into 2026. So good time to be a condo buyer if you're looking for a condo, at least in central Contra Costa County. There are a lot of value plays out there. So anyways, thank you very much for checking out my video. I hope you found it informative. Stay tuned for my rant. Next week we'll be doing Danville, taking a look at the Danville market, seeing what's going on over there, and then we'll head back up to Pleasant Hill. When we go back to Pleasant Hill, we'll be taking a look at 2025. It'll be probably the first report that we see that will have some, give us some good information as to what 2025 will hold for us. And once again, have a great week. We'll see you next week. So anyways, the city of Concord about a year ago passed its master plan that has been decades in the making for the Concord Danville Weapons Station if that area ever gets cleaned up by the EPA. And this is sort of a glowing example of 1950s planning warmed over for an optimistic, I don't know who's actually behind this. I don't know if this is the planning department or if it's the city council in Concord or what have you. But if you take a look at the plan, what they've basically done is this area goes from Highway 4, basically the waterfront in Solano. It's just a couple miles off. What's left of the military base is still there between Highway 4 and the water. Someday that'll close down and they'll move that military installation somewhere else, and the rest of that will be developed as residential and urban probably. But what they proposed on the side of Highway 4 all the way down to Clayton is basically single-family home and parks. The densities are not nearly high enough to meet the demand for housing in the area. It's also going to be all zero lot line, which, the sprawl people will just have a feel, just love that. But as a practical matter, Concord is the urban center for this part of Contra Costa County. The side of Highway 4, opposite the side of Highway 4, is all industrial. That's where the jobs are. And as a practical matter, the densities that they proposed for that area are just not high enough. They also proposed an urban center right there by the freeway, which is probably a good thing. It'll be connected from the existing downtown by Willow Pass Road, which will become like a Lawrence Expressway somewhere down the road. But just again, the densities are just not high enough. They should have, maybe go with fourplex buildings, condos, high-rise townhouses, sort of like they did. But and the amount of parkland is great. I mean, aesthetically, it's probably on par with, it looks like on par with what, even greater than Danville. But the thing about it is that Concord is the urban center. There are places around Concord where you can legitimately protect lands that connect to Lime Ridge and the hillsides where you can keep the parks and all that stuff. But just what they've done is really more of a throwback than it is. It's backward looking. It's not a forward looking plan, and probably should be scrapped. And they should start over based on more realistic assumptions about what's going on in the market. It's just not a great plan. It's a beautiful plan. They deserve an award for planning a potentially beautiful project, but it does not reflect the realities and the needs of the community. More like wishful thinking is probably the best way to say it. But hey, for the realtors out there like myself, or the next generation of realtors who will be selling these homes, more power to you. You know, yeah, it'll be ridiculously priced real estate when it gets built. There'll be relatively little affordable property in there relative to the middle of the market. Take a look at what Concord's building, what is being built in Concord. Townhouses are $800,000. Single-family homes are being built at $1.2 million, and you're going like, who are they building this stuff for? Yeah, you're building it for a higher end market. You're building it for higher end communities. The incomes that support those homes are basically the kind of incomes that you need in order just to live in this state, but it doesn't ultimately solve the problem of getting enough units in order to push the affordability segment down to a point where people making in the high double-digit incomes, the 70, 80, 90, $100,000 earners, will be able to buy unless they're just extremely frugal, and they'll be the exception, not the rule. Those people are still finding homes, but they're finding homes in they're finding homes in Richmond, finding homes in Oakland. I'm aware of situations and owners that are making low $100,000 incomes that are able to save and then make enough money in order to buy single families and at least get a roof over their head and not rent. But you take a look at what's happening in Walnut Creek. A bulk of what's being built is apartments. They're building, apartments at the rate of about 5 to 1 versus single family. And then you're going like, well, hoorah for turning Walnut Creek into Pottersville, but this is not ultimately what you want for good long-term health of a community. It's like you're not achieving the ultimate goal. You're turning potential homeowners into renters, and you're allowing the rich to get richer. It's, I've never been one who's ever subscribed to that sort of mentality, but it's this, the evidence is out there that this is the ultimate consequence of the rigid planning that you have in this area and the improper planning that you have in this area. So anyways, that's my rant for Concord Naval Weapons Station.